No one is going to top UConn and Texas in the AP poll for some time.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm Kalia Butler. Joined alongside me is Sophia Jones. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Again, thank you so much for tuning in and chatting it up with us about women's basketball. Are you chatting with us? No, but I like to think that you guys are. Like I can feel it that we're all just in a room talking about women's basketball. On the list of topics for today, we're going to go over what we saw at USA training camp, some good quotes that we pulled that would like to discuss, latest in the CBA discussions as we are slowly but surely getting closer to that January 9th deadline now. But first, we're going to go over the AP poll for the week. No surprise to anybody. UConn is still number one in the polls. They had 792 points. They're 10-0. Texas right behind them again, 12-0 with 776 points. So they're getting closer and closer to UConn each week, but still going to be tough to crack that number one spot against the Huskies.
At this point, it almost seems like unless UConn has any kind of loss, it'll be really difficult to have Texas surpass them, even though once we get into conference play, Texas will most likely pick up more resume-boosting wins than UConn. But again, because the SEC is so competitive, maybe a team could sneak up on them. I'm looking at South Carolina, who might want to get their get back, LSU, even Oklahoma, all teams in the top 10. But I think as in general, unless anything crazy happens, God forbid, injury-wise, I think we'll see a pretty consistent UConn 1 and Texas 2 on the year.
Absolutely. When we're looking at teams that have made a little bit of a shift, Oklahoma is one of them after a really convincing win over Oklahoma State. We mentioned it before. They're on a 9-game winning streak. They looked really strong against Oklahoma State as well. What do you like from Oklahoma that has pushed them up a little bit in the ranked, currently sitting at number 8 now?
I'm seeing a ton of offense from them and also curated chaos on the defensive end that they're really thriving off of and flustering opponents. That was one of the biggest ways that they were able to beat Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State at the time was ranked number 23. So that's another signature resume boosting win. But I think it's also coming down a lot to Aaliyah Chavez and the fact that she's really starting to find her role and boost up that efficiency a little bit more from Oklahoma. And it all goes back to that game that they played against UCLA. That's the last and only game that they lost this season. And that really helped spark, I think, a motivated Sooners team.
Louisville, another team that made a significant jump. They've been sitting within those mid to lower 20s range, but making a jump all the way to 16 right now after having their first win against a ranked opponent this season. We've seen them put up some pretty good games against other ranked opponents, finally being able to get a victory against North Carolina. But what do you like about Louisville? This is a team that we've talked about time and time again, that we're like, the pieces are there. They just haven't gotten the win just yet, but finally moving up 6 spots.
No, exactly how you put it. All the right things have been there this whole season for the team. They just had a couple of losses to ranked opponents. They lost to UConn and South Carolina. But this was a game, it really came together. It was that 10-0 overtime that they shut out North Carolina again. So really having that closing speed to get the win, and also an ACC play as well. I think some of these conference wins, when you think about all the just all the external factors that might be coming into play there. I think that's why it also meant a little bit more. But Louisville, I was, like you said, we've been saying and speaking very highly of Louisville, but then they didn't get their win against a ranked opponent. Now they finally did. And I think that they were definitely due for this signature win.
Some other ones that we're looking at, USC having a little bit of a tough time. Dropped down 3 points after that loss to UConn, which was a pretty tough loss for them this season. But on a positive note, for a different team that we have talked about, Princeton has cracked open that top 25 ranking. We said that they've had one of the most historic beginnings to their season so far. They have only lost to Maryland this year. They're on an 8-game winning streak. They're only lost to a Big Ten team, but they've also beat a Big Ten team. They've beat multiple Big East teams. What do you like to see about some of these mid-major schools, especially in Ivy League, being able to get into that top 25 and claim some confidence there?
Yeah, I think whenever you get into the conversation of when is a mid-major, quote unquote, good enough to crack some of these rankings, you look at not only the level of competition and how they fared up against that, but in some of the other wins, how dominant they were. And I felt like Princeton has put together a really solid resume. Like you mentioned, only loss this year is at the hands of Maryland. Maryland is 12-0. They're sitting at number 7. They've been an extremely solid team. So it's not too much of a detriment to get beaten by Maryland at this point in the season, but they're on an 8-game winning streak after that loss, and they've just been so steady. So I'm happy to see them crack that top 25. They pushed out Oklahoma State after they lost against Oklahoma. So I think that this is a program also that has been really steady these past couple of years and has made these appearances. And yeah, it's always nice to see the mid-majors make an appearance for sure.
Some games to look out for when we're talking about future seeding. UConn is going up against Iowa on Saturday. Tennessee and Louisville also playing on Saturday. We'll break those games down later in the week. But big picture, as I mentioned it at the beginning, UConn and Texas look like the teams to beat right now, and it would be incredibly difficult to beat them. But we've seen over the past couple of weeks that the top 10 has looked to be consistent time in and time out. What does that Where does that shift possibly come in the coming weeks?
I already think that the voting committee put a lot of weight on Oklahoma's win because they switched spots essentially with TCU, Oklahoma becoming 8, TCU becoming 9. So they're a team that could potentially do some more damage. And I think as a whole, when you look at teams in the SEC and Big Ten, those are all chance for movements because either you win and you might be able to move up, or you lose and you could get knocked down. So I think definitely be keeping an eye on those conferences that are within that top 10. Specifically, I was still really impressed from what I've seen from Michigan this season. Really battled up against Utah. They're the closest team to compete against them. I could see them causing a little bit of shifts, especially in the Big Ten, a couple of signature wins under the belt. They could make it happen. As well as Iowa State, I think Audie Crooks is one of the most unstoppable players in college women's basketball right now. And for her and her team, once they really start getting rolling, they played Iowa and looked pretty solid against them. And so once they get into conference play, also start racking up some more wins, I could see a little bit of motion from them too.
A little motion in the ocean. The season starting out strong. Some of these teams looking even stronger. But coming up next, we're going to talk about where we're at in CBA negotiations within the WNBA. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit fanduel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the CBA negotiations seem to be making light progress, may or may not be the light progress may be the term for it. But some new information has arisen. Again, January 9th is the current deadline. Also an interesting time because a lot of players that are very actively involved within the WNBPA are going to be in and playing in Unrivaled during that time. They start on January 5th. So hopefully, they can play basketball and then on the side do some CBA negotiations. It seems like a lot to have to balance right now. But Sophia, I'll toss it to you because I feel like you're good at breaking down these CBA negotiations. What are some things for us to look out for and some new information when it comes to it?
So trying to go as chronologically as possible. Thank you for the compliment, by the way. So the WNBA recently rejected a WNBA Players Association proposal in which players would have received 33% of total revenue for each year of the agreement, with a gradual 1% year over year ramp up in the proposal that the union submitted last week. That was declined by the WNBA. So the WNBA's latest proposal then would say that players will receive less than 15% of total league and team revenue, with that percentage decreasing over the life of the CBA. And so in that system, because the salary structure has been the most divisive issue within these negotiations, the system that they are trying to set up is that a portion of league revenue would be shareable, with 50% of that portion going to players. However, that shareable metric is determined is unclear. So players aren't really thrilled with that ambiguity aspect of the WNBA's latest proposal. So in return, what the Players Association latest proposal entails is that players will receive roughly 30% of total league and team revenue, where the salary cap and salary structure a little bit in turn will be determined by the player's share of previous season's total revenue minus the cost of various player benefits. Those player benefits were the ones that the WNBA was trying to get rid of. For example, medical insurance, transportation, housing. So taking the last season's total revenue minus the cost of player benefits and then dividing that by the number of teams. And so in the first year of the CBA, the players would receive right around 29% of the prior season's gross revenue, with a one-time adjustment applied to reflect the WNBA's new 11-year, $2.2 billion media rights deal. And then in each subsequent season, the player's share of total league and team revenue would increase by 1%, with players earning 34% of the prior season's gross in the final year of the proposed CBA. So those were the main proposals that have recently transpired as they relate to the salary structure.
See, I told everybody that you're good at breaking this down. Made it nice, easy, and simple to digest, because I know once there's a lot of numbers that get involved, my brain just starts going. There's a reason I majored in communications. Let's just say that I can talk. Can I do math? Not necessarily. But another new addition that was also really interesting, proposed by the WNBPA, is including 2 additional developmental spots for players on rosters. Sophia, what would that look like and what are the benefits of it?
Yeah, so the players would receive a stipend and could appear in up to 10 games per season and at a prorated minimum league salary before signing a rest of season contract. And developmental players will also receive full benefits. I think that would be a really great idea if they're able to make this happen, because looking at the amount of injuries that always occurs every single year in the W, but especially for specific teams, and then you have a constant rotation of hardship players and 10-day contracts, I feel like it would be really beneficial to have those developmental spots and essentially like a call up. And I think that, again, I think that would be a really good idea for the WNBA to have. And I'm glad to see that the Players Association is proposing it. I wouldn't be surprised if Miss Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart had a little something to say with this one, because it's a little similar to the developmental pool that we see in Unrivaled, where they have just players on site that can essentially get called up.
Isn't it like there's a saying that like basically, you know, mimicking someone is truly just flattery? Maybe that's what they're really feeling, because I know they are sitting there with just UConn education being like, exactly, this is what we were trying to tell you guys. When we talk about some of the reactions that players have had as well, Kelsey Plum, while we're talking about these Team USA things that are going on with the camp, Kelsey Plum said it's a little bit disheartening when it comes to the CBA, just frustration in the negotiation and how far away we are. Caitlin Clark also chimed in about the CBA and said, quote, "This is the biggest moment in the WNBA has ever seen, and it's not something that can be messed up. We're going to fight for everything that we deserve, but at the same time, we need to play basketball. That's what our fans crave. That's what all of you crave as well. You want the product on the floor," end quote. And she is absolutely correct. We want to see basketball. That's exactly why we are here having these discussions in the first place. What is your response to how players have responded to some of the more recent conversations?
Yeah, starting with Kelsey Plum's comment, it's a little bit worrying that she still seems, or she said that it's a little bit disheartening and that there's still frustration around the negotiations, because at this point where they're already on their second extension, the CBA was supposed to expire October 30th. So they've had a good couple of months to already mold this over. And it looks like maybe they're inching towards compromise from an outsider's point of view, is what I seem to grasp a little bit. But for someone like Kelsey Plum in the negotiations to say that it's disheartening is maybe a little bit concerning, and hopefully they can start getting the ball rolling on this as much as possible. I mean, you mentioned she'll be down there for Unrivaled, and I think if the players can continue to discuss amongst themselves how best to work this out, the fastest way to get a compromise is through dialogue. I think that would be the best case scenario. And then for Caitlin Clark, she's not understating the fact that this is the biggest moment that the WNBA has ever seen, because it's really going to lay the foundation for how these next couple of years and the growth of the league is really going to work. She mentioned that they're going to fight for everything that they deserve, and I believe that. And also mentioned that we need to play basketball. And I hope that that part doesn't come off as the players losing a little bit of leverage, because if she portrays the fact that she really wants to play basketball, the other side is looking at that and being like, oh, well, then maybe we can bend them a little bit more, as opposed to the players all just being in a united front. And even if they're bluffing, saying, oh, we don't need to play the WNBA this season, even if they're bluffing, but I think that might actually deliver the message a little bit better than saying we need to play basketball. But I do understand what she means within the growth of the WNBA, because if there is a lockout this year or a work stoppage, it would slow the growth of the league. So yes, I do agree that basketball needs to get played.
Exactly what you said, but again, just kind of emphasizing what she said at the beginning, you can't fumble this moment. Obviously, you have this gigantic media rights deal too, but if you aren't playing basketball, you don't have that media rights deal. The show has to go on, but to your point too, the show has to go on at a united front that is fair for all of these players who have put so much into this league and developing it over these past couple of seasons, especially these last two. So we will keep you guys updated on what is happening there. But coming up next, we're going to go a little bit over the Team USA training camp.
When SKIMS announced they were making underwear for men, the reaction made perfect sense. People have been talking about SKIMS Comfort for years. Most people, though, stick to whatever they've been buying since college. The same fits, the same waistbands that roll, and a whole lot of settling. SKIMS Men's changes that. One upgrade, and it's obvious why everyone's been talking. They're designed to feel good, fit right, and actually stay put. No slipping, no sagging, no adjusting. Just genuine gray underwear that makes you feel confident and comfortable. I own a couple pairs of the women's cotton rib boxers and can really attest to the great and comfortable material. So shop SKIMS Men's now at skims.com. And when you place the order, choose podcast in the post-purchase survey and select a show from the dropdown to let them know we sent you. Plus, the SKIMS Holiday Shop is open. So if you're looking for a perfect gift this season, SKIMS has you covered. The holidays show up faster than ever. And while you're still putting together gifts, last-minute decor, or getting your home ready for guests, Wayfair has you covered. Whether you need a quick room fresh, new bedding, or those final season touches, Wayfair makes it easy to get what you need fast. Wayfair truly is your one-stop shop for everything home, with decor, furniture, kitchen essentials, and gifts for every style and every budget, all delivered quickly and easily. No massive fees, no massive delivery fees, no stress. I know me personally, I've had my Christmas decorations up since Thanksgiving, but I'm always looking to add a little bit more sparkle. So get last minute hosting essentials, gifts for all your loved ones, and decor to celebrate the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home.
Now, if everybody has been checking into the Team USA social media like I have, Paige Beckers has been the face of it all. And I think she's really trying to get away from these uncle claims or auntie claims that she was having during the season, because when they got to training camp, she said our generation and our young core is the young and turnt core. So that's the kind of vibe we want to bring to this camp. And I just find her hilarious. Like, she is so good at basketball and she's so unserious at times too, but she's also incredibly serious, because we saw her get on the UConn practice players for not trying hard enough. But then she also comes to Team USA training camp and says we're young and turnt, and that's what we're trying to do here, literally representing the country. And I honestly would not want anybody else to better represent what the youth of America looks like right now besides Paige Beckers.
Exactly. I think she encapsulated it so well, because yes, while you're saying young and turnt, that could mean a certain thing, you know? But I think when you're thinking of it, even on the basketball court, it's just youthfulness that is going to bring a ton of energy. Looking back at last USA or during the Olympics, Gabby Williams was a toenail away from sending that gold medal match into overtime. So they barely scraped past the French. And I don't think that they're looking to have the same results this time. But just to rattle off some names that I think would be that are in that young and turnt core on the training camp roster. Lauren Betts, Aaliyah Boston, Cameron Brink, Paige, of course, Veronica Burton, Sonia Citron, Caitlin Clark. Then we have Kiki Iriafin, Rakia Jackson, Angel Reese, Juju Watkins. So I think that is a very solid young and turnt core with also a good little bit of veteran leadership as well.
To keep on the topic of youth, obviously Juju Watkins was at the camp, currently working her way back from her ACL tear. But there was another social media video of saying when the youngest player was born on the team, Juju Watkins is the youngest. She's 20 years old. And literally all the veterans were like, "You're 20?" Like that type of TikTok. But she's so young, but she handles herself so gracefully. She has maturity beyond her years. And she basically said that being there and feeling the energy of being around all of these players, hearing everybody's voice, the communication, the leadership, it is something that she can bring with her and will definitely take some of those lessons back to USC when she go back and play to continue growing as a leader and as a player. And as I mentioned, just her maturity level is so high, but you can tell that she's already so great, but she's also such a sponge. And when we're talking about all the younger players that are there, which are a good handful of them, about 11 young players that are there, they have all said the same things of just really respecting the veterans that have laid the foundation and coming in and wanting to absorb this information. Are they young and turnt going up against the aunties? Yes, but at the end of the day, they respect the aunties and they know not to act out in front of them. So exciting to hear that Juju has gotten a lot out of this as well. Obviously, I'm sure frustrated that she can't be her full self at a camp like this right now.
Yeah, and I still think for her, this was definitely a long-term business move, because when you're being recruited in any aspect, but especially as an athlete, you are under a lot of surveillance and a lot of the different things that you do, not just your on-court play is monitored. So by her being there, even though she wasn't on the court, but I think her ability to interact with everyone else, maybe use her voice and just make that impression on the coaches, I can definitely see that going a long way. Because like I mentioned, I mean, Juju has a real shot at being on USA teams to come. And I think that for her to take that knowledge is also really beneficial, like you mentioned, to USC, because even amongst that squad, she is an upperclassman. So she has her own young interns to look over. But that's the exact type of, I guess, mentorship that she is learning there.
Absolutely. And a little update for any Chicago Sky fans out there. Angel Reese did say that she is returning to the Sky this upcoming season. She said, "I am under contract. So yes, I am planning on returning to the Sky." She also mentioned wanting to really foster more relationships while she makes her return to Chicago. But kind of just wanting to jump back really quick to what you mentioned in terms of this being just a really good time for players to showcase who they are, whether they're going to get a bunch of playing time, whether they're going to make the team, whatever the case may be. And Sue Bird made that very clear that this was a crucial time for players to elevate, but also get experience. So, if they're not there quite yet, they were still invited for a reason, and bridging that gap for them to eventually get there.
Definitely. I mean, you said it. They were invited for a reason. I think that if Team USA had absolutely no interest in Juju, they would have looked at her, seen that she wasn't going to be able to participate, and just not even sent that in the mail, even though that's probably not done. It's probably just an email or something. But essentially, I think this is just a really great experience for everyone. And you see that bond that Team USA creates, which at a time when women's basketball really needs that united front, I think any camaraderie that these events can generate is beneficial.
Absolutely. Excited to see what that roster is going to look like. Hopefully we'll get some news on that coming up. But thank you so much for watching Locked on Women's Basketball. That'll do it from Sophia and us today. We'll